Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lonely Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Ariane. I want to share with you what this podcast is about if you're new here. The goal of this podcast is to make us usually lonely artists not feel so alone anymore and find a positive and supportive community to lift us up. And today we have a very special guest for you. Please help me in welcoming Ausa. Ausa is a 34-year-old UX UI designer and works full-time for a startup in digital therapeutics. Never really knowing what she wanted to be when she grew up, she completed university degrees in both architecture and linguistics, all the while getting random illustration commissions. As a young girl, she used to draw Disney figures with her brothers. At some point, they stopped, but she never did. So,
All right,
how are
thanks.
you? How has
I'm
your
good.
weekend been?
Really nice, actually. We're sort of finishing up all of the final touches for Christmas and almost there, but a few things left.
That's
But we
so
got the tree
cool.
today. Yeah, so it's all happening.
So you're getting into the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, as much as we can. Obviously, it's a little bit different this year. There's no like big family gathering or anything because of COVID,
Of
but we're
course.
just gonna keep it small and cozy.
I mean, I
Uh,
kind of like small and cozy Christmases anyway.
yeah, it's not bad. I agree. It's gonna be fine. I'm not worried at all. And the kids are so young, they don't really realize what's going on, so no one's, gonna be bothered by it.
Yeah, no one's complaining.
Exactly. That's good.
So tell
What
me
about yourself?
something.
Oh
How do
yeah.
I pronounce your name? Is it Asa?
Oh yeah. It's almost like that. So the little accent makes the ow sound like in a house or
Oh,
cow.
okay. So
So it's like
Ausa?
yeah,
Okay,
exactly. That's
awesome.
correct. Thanks.
I'm
Yeah.
just reading it in Spanish like Asa.
Of course, yeah, I know you guys have the same letter, but we it's a bit different here, but yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Well, I'm gonna now say it properly because I was definitely saying it wrong.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, Ausa is fine, so hopefully that should be understandable to the listeners.
I'm so happy that you're here. It's always so cool to discover new artists, but it's even better to actually get to know them. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, and I'm just really happy that you're here with us and with people that will
Mhm.
be listening when I upload the podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm honestly really just honored to be here, and thank you for including me. It's gonna be fun. I'm like sort of new to the whole Instagram artist community, and it's been really fun so far getting to know all of the other artists and just being a part of it.
It definitely doesn't seem like you are. Your art is so pretty, and I don't know, all your posts are just so
Oh,
fun
thank
to
you.
watch. So it seems like you've been doing it for a while, actually.
No, yeah, I mean I've been doing I guess art for a while, but Instagram is fairly new to me, so I just really started posting a few months ago for like a reel, I think.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so it's definitely fun. I don't know why I waited so long because I've been following Instagram artists for a long time. I just yeah, anyway, we'll get into it, I
I
guess.
guess we all have our times, right?
Right, yeah. It's also just been like a bit hectic these past 3 years because I've had two children and
I
the
can't
whole
even begin to imagine with two children.
right, yeah. It's a bit of a handful, but it's a fun challenge, so it's all good.
I can imagine. If anything, it must really feed into your creative mind to have children around.
It does, especially with my older. She's 3 years old, and she is such a creative person. She loves drawing and painting, and we're constantly doing something together. And she's really like showing good promise, I think, good potential. And it's really fun discovering it, with fresh eyes. It's really
Of
something
course.
else.
Well,
Yeah.
that is actually a perfect segue into our first question because I wanted to know if you started art when you were very young, or when did you initially decide to pursue arts?
Well, yeah, that's honestly something that was always on my mind, I think. So basically, when I really started to think about what I want to be when I grow up, art and design was always like one major option for me. I think maybe partly it's a bit in the family, like my mom and my uncle, they're architects. And my aunt, she worked in animation for decades.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and her son also is doing special effects for movies and TV.
So it's in your blood.
I suppose. And I mean, I even have some older relatives, that are no longer with us, that were artists. And I think it's just always been really around me, and it's been encouraged. So yeah, I think that's why I really always knew it was an option.
It always makes me happy to hear that people are encouraged from a young age to do something like arts, because even though it seems a bit more easy to do that nowadays, I feel like there's always that stigma, right, of becoming an artist. And how are you going to live being an artist?
I know. Yeah, I think, obviously that was, a bit of a question, like what exact path I wanted to pursue. So animation was sort of on my mind for years, for like most of my teenage years. I really wanted to do animation, and I was thinking of going abroad, like to CalArts or some, big name school and study. But as I sort of grew older, I realized that it wasn't the most practical choice, especially up here. I know the industry isn't that big.
Yeah.
So I sort of put that, aside, I guess, and I put more emphasis on illustration, really, and just drawing instead of animation.
Well, I actually also, one of my dreams was to go to CalArts, and then I saw the tuition and I was like, I don't want to be in debt for my entire life. No, thanks.
Right? It's crazy.
It is pretty crazy. I don't think it's, for some people, it most definitely is worth it, but I think it's not very accessible for most.
Yeah, definitely. So I sort of put that aside as well. When I found out like the practical side of it, it wasn't really, attainable.
Yeah, and you have a very interesting background actually with your education, and I really want to dig into that because you have a background from architecture and linguistics to graphic and UX design. So tell me a little bit about how that came about, but also how do you think that has influenced you artistically and with your perspective when you draw?
Yeah, sure. So like I think I told you, I was a bit unsure what I really wanted to be when I grew up, whatever that means. And I actually did, like, after I finished what we call, I suppose, high school up here at 19, I did a 1 year, like a program in just foundational arts, just figure drawing and painting and all that. And I quite enjoyed it, but I always had in the back of my mind, like, I may do that, or I will go into languages. That was sort of my other big passion, and I really enjoyed studying it. So, but I still sort of, I suppose I couldn't really commit to it. And I did linguistics degrees, 2 of them actually, for several years. Yeah. It all sort of started when like I went to Germany for like a good chunk of a year with my then boyfriend and now husband. And I really enjoyed studying German there. And when I came back to Iceland, I decided to just hop into linguistics. And
wow, I mean, if that is not being invested, I don't know what it is.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, that was a really good time and I really enjoyed it. But I think that was like the taking point was during the last year of I think I was doing my thesis, and I was constantly drawing. I just couldn't, like, I don't know, I was always putting writing aside so I could, I found this new program. I think it was Sketchbook Pro. And they had such a great array of brushes, and I just suddenly rediscovered like inking and digital painting, and I just suddenly realized how much I missed being creative. Something I didn't really do at all when I was in my university studies, and then I just realized, like, now I think this is what I have to do. So so after I finished that degree, I decided to finish out an architecture degree, and I thought that was sort of, again, maybe I was my practical side coming out, because I mean that's definitely something you can do here. It's creative but still practical, it's sort of best of both worlds. And after I finished that, I actually got a semi internship or a job at a architecture studio. And again, during my time there, I actually understood how much I preferred graphic design. and well, the thing is, I actually was also accepted into that, but I still chose architecture.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I also discovered UX design in school, and I just sort of realized when I was working at the studio, like the architecture, it wasn't really like gelling with me. And then I got pregnant actually, and I just decided during my maternity leave that I'm gonna do UX design, and just sort of jumped into that.
Mm-hmm.
Did an online like a seminar, and here I am, doing that today.
Well, you definitely took
Yeah.
like some different paths just to circle around the same thing of
Yeah,
just realizing how much you love art.
I
But
know it's a bit stupid.
no, I mean, I feel like that's it's actually a good thing sometimes, because it just, when you only have the artistic abilities and you don't experience other things, it might be easier for you to like get stuck or have artist like
Yeah,
art block, and you have all
for
these
sure.
experiences that I'm sure really help you, you know, what I was saying, just have a different perspective of drawing.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, that's a good segue into your like second part of the question. And I think I was really like thinking about that when you asked me. And I think I, like at my core, I'm a very analytical person.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy like studying the human form, like in figure drawing and doing portraits, just like, really understanding how, light works when it hits a certain surface and all of that. And maybe that's the same part of me that enjoys studying languages.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yeah, my approach to drawing has always been fairly methodical and structured. So I think that's sort of the common ground in all of this, I think.
That
Uh,
is so cool too, because I feel there's this cliche of people thinking that artists are usually scattered and like creative but messy,
yeah,
and I know so many artists that are actually, that do not fit that mold, and that are actually pretty like interested in, I don't know, mathematics or programming or, you know,
oh yeah.
architecture like yourself. So I find that it makes more sense to me that people who like art would be analytic in a way, because we're
Yeah,
observing things to be able to uh, draw them, right?
right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a big part of, being an artist. When you're drawing, you really have to observe things from a really analytical point of view. You can't just, do something and hope it will work out. I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a good
totally
point.
agree with you in that one. And I'm glad that you also don't fulfill that cliche or mold. It's always way more interesting, I feel, in
Yeah,
that way.
glad to hear it. Oh
And
yeah.
I also really love your style. Who doesn't love a Disney sort
Oh
of
yeah.
style, right? Because
Same.
it's simple, but yet it reminds me so much, like I said, of Disney and just cartoons that I watched growing up.
Sure.
And it has this like fun, free, a little bit of like um channeling that inner child whenever I look at it,
Oh
which
yeah.
I really like it.
That's fun.
And I was wondering if the style that you draw in, is that like a conscious choice that you make, or is this just like a consequence of the aesthetics that you enjoy the most?
Sure. So, well, I think while it's definitely a bit of both, I would say that's probably not a coincidence because Disney is really what like I grew up with, and that's what I really started to teach myself drawing when I was a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's definitely a very conscious choice of my part.
All
And I
right.
mean, I think I really started. I remember very well when I was probably 11 or 12. I got this book that's called like Learn How to Draw Aladdin, and it's a fairly small, like simple thing. But this is when I first started to approach drawing in the same way like animation or animators do. It's you start with a more of a 3D approach. Like you're not just drawing lines, but sort of like when you're drawing the head, you just start with a sphere
Mm-hmm.
and rotate the sphere in a very a particular manner. And so I sort of, I think I almost like retaught myself to draw people when I used that particular method. So
Right,
it was
you
a
were
bit of a
like
turning point.
reverse engineering the Disney style almost.
You could say that, yeah. Suddenly it wasn't like, I don't know, I don't really even remember how I approached drawing back before that. It was more naive in a way, but
Hmm.
suddenly I had this tool in my hand, like, okay, so you can always like have this, that so-called like line of action when you're drawing like the figure,
Hmm.
and make like almost like a stick figure underneath, and then you sort of layer the drawing on top of it when you're building all the more details.
Right. Yeah.
And so I really just started developing that style, and it became really natural to me in a couple of years.
So it was perfectly tailored to your analytic way of looking at things.
Yeah, when you say that, that's true, I suppose.
It all like
Yeah,
makes sense now.
it kind of does. Yeah, when you point it out.
Which
No,
is
yeah, but the
great.
animation was it's huge. It's yeah,
Yeah, I
and
love
I often wonder if
animation
I,
for sure.
yeah, like if I hadn't gotten that book, I probably would have at some point discovered this, I think. But I'm happy I did it at a fairly young age. So
Well, I'm
it's,
happy too, because that means we're both here talking about it and
oh
we
yeah,
get to share with other people too, which is always, so wonderful.
oh yeah, definitely.
I also see that I was looking at your Instagram and you've kind of been shifting from doing more colored digital work to more sketchy black and white drawings. Do you ever feel like, and this is something that I always ask myself too, do you ever feel like sketches are more fun than doing completed works?
I think that's a pretty firm yes from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sketching has always sort of been my go-to style, just like a pencil, and that's it. I mean, that's usually just been how I've always drawn, and I've never really been big on color, I
Uh,
guess. I mean, that came much later, maybe when I started doing digital art. But before that, it was just a sketchbook and like plenty of different like thicknesses of pencils, maybe some charcoal.
mm,
But I didn't really like dabble in paint per se. That was really just digitally in Photoshop and now
yeah.
Procreate.
Oh, okay.
So it's like I don't know, maybe it's the loose style that you can just always experiment with, and I think another part of it is that I think I always lose some of it, the spark, the energy of the sketch when I try to finish it.
Yeah, I
And
feel the
in a
same
more
way.
complete work. Yeah, right. It's always been a bit of a struggle for me.
I agree with you 100%. It's always better to look at the sketch and think of the possibilities than actually looking at the
Yeah,
finished product.
in a way, yeah, I totally agree. And while I have definitely experimented for years with completed works, I've never really like fully found a complete, I suppose, a pipeline for me. How
Mhm.
I'm always like changing things up and looking at Instagram, getting inspiration and seeing new ways. Or like, oh yeah, this is probably a better way to like use a clipping mask here and there and all of that when I'm doing the actual color. But when it comes to sketching, that's much more natural to me, and
So
it's
has that
just so
been
good.
like that shift of like doing colored drawings to sketchy drawings? Has that been like a conscious choice of like, I don't want to do colored right now, so I'm just gonna focus on sketches? Or is there a reason why
Yeah.
you shifted?
Yeah, it was actually a bit of a conscious choice some weeks back, maybe, and that I really wanted to just focus on sketching because, well, like maybe two reasons. First, I really want to be to draw more, just in general, and it's just much easier to like, okay, I have maybe 30 minutes here. I'm just gonna, sketch and not gonna focus on finishing anything in particular. Just gonna,
Of
draw
course.
from head. And actually, I probably should draw more for reference, but it's just usually more fun to just, it's almost meditative, just, let it loose and see what happens.
I completely agree with you. Oh, and actually, I
Yeah.
wanted to tell you, thank you so much for participating on my Draw This in Your Style challenge.
Okay, yeah, of course.
I
That was really
loved
fun.
seeing, I love seeing Malaria in a sketchy sort of like pencil
Yeah.
version of her. It was so nice. I loved it so much. So thank you
Oh,
for
thank
that.
you. Of course, you're welcome. I really had fun with that piece, actually. spent some time like getting her face just right, and I just really enjoyed it. I actually made an attempt in coloring it, but I never really felt like
Really?
it. Yeah, it was again that same problem. I really liked the spirit of the sketch, but the ink version didn't quite capture it, so I put it aside for a while. I may try again.
Well, whatever you do, I'm so happy with the sketch version anyway. So
Oh,
you're
thank you.
good.
All right, that sounds fun. Yeah.
So
No,
tell me
yeah. So
something. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
no, yeah. I was just mentioning that. So I think for me, just sketching, it's easier to upload more regularly, because it's something I can produce much faster.
Yes.
That was sort of another main reason I wanted to focus on sketching, just to be more regular.
Poster, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on Instagram. I'm
Yeah,
trying.
and especially with like trying to follow algorithms and like
Exactly.
staying relevant, it's good. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
requirement.
exactly. That's what I've read.
Well, and I was also wondering, so I know you have a lot of inspiration from Disney, right? And that's
Oh
a
yeah.
part of how you get your creativity from. But is there any other source of creativity or inspiration that you seek for your drawings?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't only have Disney. I mean, animation in general is a big inspiration. There's so many different styles that I love looking at, from, Miyazaki and Cartoon Saloon and all the other interesting, or stop motion even. So,
Mm-hmm.
so like animation, while Disney is the biggest part of it, I would say it's like that entire sphere.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a lot of the art of movies, the books. I mean, like
Oh,
the
that's
art
so
of
cool.
Frozen and art of I have like I think 7 or so books, or 8 maybe.
Oh my God, you're so
And
lucky to have so many. I love those books. I always, when I
I
go to like
know,
libraries, I just like try and get as much information from them as I can, and I just
right?
leave them there.
Yeah, they're so good. I mean, because I really, really love looking at the visual development parts,
Mm,
and that's something that I really just discovered when I started collecting these books. Or maybe not collecting, but I've gathered a few.
yeah,
And that's when I understood, like, I think that's probably something that I would love to do if I would ever work in animation, because there's so much just exploring and sketching and, being creative.
of
And
course.
so just, yeah, looking at these have been a long-term inspiration. I got my first The Art of Aladdin when I was maybe 16, I think, or like
Oh,
20
so
years
like from
ago,
a really young
almost.
age.
Yeah, that was my only book for a long time, but like in
Mm.
the past few years, I've had more. So whenever I feel like a bit stuck, I always enjoy looking at these. They are just so good.
I'm
Like
sure
Glen
you could look
Keane,
at
oh my
them
gosh.
forever.
Yeah, it's truly amazing.
So actually, this
Um,
is also perfect because I wanted to ask you to who your biggest art inspirations are as well, like artists specifically.
yeah, specific artists. Yeah, so obviously Glen Keane, I think if I hadn't mentioned him,
Yes.
he is just my biggest inspiration. I think he has such a fluid style and amazing designs as well, so
Mhm.
that's just definitely one of the biggest ones. And other Disney artists like Aaron Blaise and Jin Kim, Andrea Stacia, and others, I've been following their work for a long time.
Yeah,
But
they all have very interesting ways of capturing life, and sometimes it's so
yeah,
graphic that you can't quite understand how they can find all the simplicity of like the complex real world and just put it into art, right?
exactly, it's amazing. And they have all different styles. Like Glen Keane is obviously really good with the human body, but then you have
Mhm.
Aaron Blaise, who does amazing animals, something I cannot do.
Me neither.
Not a strength. No, but I really enjoy looking at it. It's truly amazing.
Yeah.
But I think actually there have been some online artists as well that I've been following for quite a few years now. I
Hmm.
think one of the a few come to mind that I started following when I was a teenager, and Lois is probably the first one I really enjoyed looking at. You probably are familiar with
Oh
her.
yes, Lo is just
Yeah,
like the sweetheart of the digital art community.
isn't
Everybody
she?
loves her.
Ah, she's so good. She has such an interesting style. I mean, it's not really something that I try to like emulate per se. It's quite different from my style, but I always get inspiration looking at her color choices, you know, and how she stylizes the human body, and it's really unique.
Yeah, she is just out of this world. Like, I
I
don't
know.
understand.
This is such a bundle of talent. It's unfair.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
But totally
Another one
good.
that I really have enjoyed looking at, although she's not, I think, quite active on Instagram, but her name is Emmy Cicierega, and I think she's a storyboard artist for there's some animation show. I can't quite recall which one, but she has such a crisp Disney-like style that I really enjoyed looking at, and I really tried to copy at the time when I was younger.
I mean, I don't know her, but I'm gonna definitely check her out after this.
Oh yeah, that do. I think she has a Tumblr blog that's probably has full of all of her pictures. It's really interesting to look at. I think a bit like a new addition is Pernille Ørum. She's Danish.
Oh yes, I know
Such a
her.
really clean Disney-like, but not quite. She definitely has her own
Unique
look.
style.
Yeah. Another one I enjoy online is Claire Hummel. She's actually has a background in like Egyptology or something, so that definitely hits a point with me. She has a more like an illustrative style that I enjoy. But I also enjoy some of the like older, you know, masters like Alphonse Mucha is a big inspiration from the Art Nouveau period.
Oh, Art Nouveau is so pretty too. I don't personally know that artist, but all of the artists that I always get recommendations from, I'm like right on them because I want to, you know, learn about more artists.
Oh yeah, I do recommend. It's actually someone I learned from Loish because she has done some Art Nouveau style and she has name dropped him quite a few times. But yeah, he's a really fun artist to look at. And like, do you know Al Hirschfeld, an American like oh he's dead I think, but
I'm not
like
sure
a 20th
if I
century.
do.
I actually learned from him in my book about Aladdin because he was a big inspiration for the fluid, curvy lines that sort of, you know, it's the style of the movie.
Oh,
and
wow!
he's like a really master of the
I
style.
don't really know about him.
No, yeah, I didn't either, so no worries. But he's a great, like he's really the master of the line, I think. And then you have, like, you know, Norman Rockwell and all of these classic illustrators.
Yeah.
Who have, you know, really capture like a spirit or a mood that's always fun to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all look up to the old masters.
Yeah, I know. I mean, even just like the painters of, you know, the Renaissance and all that. I mean, even though I don't really paint, I really enjoy looking at it, and I definitely get some inspiration from, you know, the colors and the compositions and such.
Of course, and understandably so. It's just mesmerizing to see the kinds of work that they created, and especially in times where there were not as many technologies for art, right? So
right, yeah, it's really, you know, just captivating to see how much time they have spent mastering their craft.
Yeah, oh, for
stunning.
sure.
Yeah,
it's funny because sometimes I'll take 4 hours to make an illustration, and I'm like, I took such a long time, oh my god. And then I look at these artists and they took years and years to create their paintings, and I'm like,
I know.
Okay.
It's just you can't really relate to it. I mean we always just jump on Instagram or Netflix when we're bored. They didn't have anything. So maybe that's why, you know, they had all this time.
Yeah.
No distractions.
Yeah, this is true. Well, and also I was wondering, do you have any people that you follow that are maybe like smaller art accounts that you love, that you feel like maybe deserve more attention?
Oh yeah, sure. I've actually really enjoyed discovering Instagram artists that have maybe not, you know, tens of thousands of followers. And one that I found quite early is she's called like Tara, and her handle is Tarot Draws stuff, and she's actually working on a tarot deck.
Oh,
and that's actually something I really enjoy. And looking at tarot artists, and so yes, it's a fun. She's working on a deck that's like a very sketchy, like monochrome, like a black and white one.
Oh, tarot cards are always so cool to look at. They're so creative.
Man, I love it. Yeah, it's just a fun way to like explore styles within all of the symbology and yeah, I just really enjoy it. So yeah, for sure, that's one. And another one that I've been looking at is he's called Hoodle Doodles, and he mainly does black and white like portraits and like simple drawings and inks, and that's the style that really appeals to me.
What a
So
great
I
name,
enjoy,
though.
isn't it? Yeah.
I
Yeah, he
like
has
it.
some like time lapses, so it's fun to study.
Hmm.
I also thought maybe I should name drop some fellow artists from Iceland that haven't gotten on all the maybe followers that they deserve.
Oh, please do.
Uh, yeah, and one is called Pétur, and his handle is Packard. He's actually doing a lot of really cool stuff. He's been working for like Disney and doing Harry Potter covers, I think, and stuff. So he's definitely doing really, really cool work. But I think more people should know about his account. Another one is she's called Victoria, and I really enjoy her range. She's doing like delicate watercolor paintings, but also really like geographic vector illustrations. So that's
Oh,
always
so like
impressive when people have, yeah.
black and white.
Yeah, exactly. It's really quite different.
Yeah, the extremes.
Exactly. Maybe one else is Laura, with her handle Lara Illustrates, and she has a really appealing, like a children's book style that's always fun to look at.
Those are very fun to look at and just see all the little details. I love looking at children's books.
I know. And it's a style that I really just like enjoy studying. It's such a, I suppose, like a unique or a particular style. You can always tell when something is drawn or illustrated for a children's book,
Yeah, I've
isn't
tried
it?
to do it, but it's so hard. It looks very
It
simple, but
is.
it's very hard to emulate.
I know. I mean, it's something that I would love to tackle at some point because it's such a fun way to, and explore imagery and make it appealing and bright and fun,
Hmm.
as opposed to like editorial styles or
Yeah,
such.
yeah. And do you have any advice for people who follow you that maybe want to become artists like you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, maybe it's a bit of an obvious answer, but I would say first and foremost is to study some foundations. I actually have to admit I don't really do nearly enough studies today as I used to, but maybe that's because I had more time at some point,
Mhm.
and I really enjoyed like drawing from reference and doing figure drawings and drawing, planes of the head and all of that. And I think that's really vital because you sort of have to, know the rules before you break them or bend them,
Yes, I agree.
a solid, yeah, basics is always something you really should strive for. I know it can be boring, but
Oh, for sure.
you sort of have to like find some joy in it,
Yes.
and just, the more hours you put into it, it's gonna pay off. And definitely something that you have to do. I mean, definitely if you want to do figurative art, I suppose. I mean, if you're
Hmm.
doing abstract paintings, maybe not so much,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure
but
you must study other things if you're into more just like abstract stuff.
oh yeah, definitely. I think that's a whole different beast that I don't really know anything about.
Me neither.
But I would, yeah. I mean, it's so different. But I think another big thing actually is being a part of a community, like an art community. It's really important. And even though I'm quite new to the Instagram artist community, I've actually been a part of two other quite large communities earlier. And first off, I had an account on DeviantArt when I was like 20.
Oh, the good
I don't
old
know if
days
you,
of
yeah.
DeviantArt.
I know it's like ancient history today,
Yes, that
but
bit.
yeah, I haven't updated it for so many years, but it's
Oh,
still
me
there and
too.
has some humble beginnings. Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's kind of painful to look at it because it's all of my
Right.
older drawings and they're
Oh,
terrible.
it's still fun to see like how much you progressed, right?
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Yeah. So I mean, that was sort of my first dip into that whole thing. But I think, however, some years later, I went to the site called conceptart.org. I don't know if you are familiar with it because it's
No,
not really active anymore.
actually, no.
But yeah, no, but I'm probably showing my age here, but some like 10 or 12 years ago, that was like the place to be if you were an online artist, sort of like how Instagram is today, maybe. And it was a forum, and it was just full of so many good artists and like actual like experts, and also many of the people that were there who were studying are just big names today that I'm seeing like all over, that I was just interacting with on the regular. And,
I would have loved to be there then.
Oh yeah, it was so good. Unfortunately, it sort of deteriorated into something like, I think it's just not there anymore even, or something. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, so I had this like my own like drawing thread, and I had got such good feedback, and I was taking part in like all sorts of like competitions or challenges, and I think that was sort of where I really like leveled up in some ways. So yeah, and definitely would recommend if you could get into something like that, be it in like actual real life or online.
Of course, yeah. And well, maybe right now with all that's going on, we don't have much of an option.
Yeah, unfortunately. So stick to the online version.
Yeah, of course.
That's definitely a good point. But I mean, just continue to experiment. I think that's something that that's always appealed to me, is that I've never really stuck to one particular style. I'm sort of always trying new things. Maybe not always, but throughout the years, I like doing really like detailed inking versions of drawings, and just really loose animation like drawings and finished works. So I would say definitely don't get stuck in a particular style.
It's always good to step out of your comfort zone, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Do you have any plans for the future, if any, regarding your art or your social media presence, maybe some set goals?
Well, maybe the first step is maybe to continue being more active on Instagram, active more regularly, and get to know more artists, obviously, and hopefully grow some presence there. That's always good to have. But I would also really like to have my own maybe website at some point, to have my illustrations and some of my design work as well. And I think maybe, I don't know if I can really say like a 5-year plan, or at least like in the somewhat near future, I would really enjoy making my own creative project that maybe that combines my interest for both art and design and languages in some way. Haven't quite articulated how, but it's sort of brewing in the back of my head.
Well, I definitely want to be here to see that and to see what you come up with. I mean, I'm very interested to see what your analytical and practical way of looking at things is going to take you with your art journey. I think it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. And with your art, I'm sure you'll be growing fast, and especially if you are staying consistent. I see a lot of people wanting to follow you and following your art for sure.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's so kind. Hopefully. Yeah, crossing fingers.
I'll cross them for you as well. I always like to finish up the podcast with this kind of childish question, but it's always like, I don't know, I like to indulge in imagination. So I was wondering if you could have any magical art power to help you with your painting process or your art in general, what would you like it to be?
That's a great question. I mean, geez, I think like a few things come to mind, really. I mean, maybe just being able to, I think maybe having a master of more mediums immediately comes to mind, because even though I definitely love sketching, I really need to try other things, and being able to having equal mastery of painting and drawing and like even sculpture, and like more broad,
like a diverse range of like artistic abilities.
Oh yeah, that would be so much fun, because it's always in the back of my head to be able to do more, but maybe just having more time is obviously another thing. Or even go back in time and learn from the masters. That would be super cool.
Well, I always love asking this question because everybody has a different answer, of course. But
Of
one
course.
thing I feel like we all agree with is time. You know, we would all love a
Man,
bit more time to just be able
that's, yeah,
to do art.
definitely. That's so true. I mean, when I was younger, I had so much more time to draw, so it's
Mhm.
definitely something I'm much more aware of now.
Yeah, for sure. I feel as we grow older, the responsibilities and just time
Yeah,
just feels like it flies by so much. It's
it
insane.
does. Yeah, the years just really go by fast these days.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually having a conversation with my boyfriend yesterday about this, and I was like, you know, it's funny because you can be efficient in work in general, but even if you're the most efficient artist in the world, there's no way around the amount of time that it takes you to create art, right? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
so it's oh man, I wish I had, countless hours to just draw and still have a full day ahead of me to do other things
Ah,
as well.
that's a dream, really. Really
Of
agree.
course. And while you with children, oh my God, I have a dog and it's nothing compared to having children, but like that in and of itself, I'm like, wow,
Full responsibility.
how do you do it?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really do it, I guess. I mean, there are days when I just don't even like think about it and
Yeah,
don't pick up the pencil at all.
of course.
But hopefully, when they get older, you get some more time. So,
Yes. Maybe you can also encourage them to do their own thing too.
oh yeah, absolutely. I really want to foster some interest and creativity in them in the arts. So it's always fun to like rediscover it with them. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that's gonna do something to me as well, something positive.
Well, that sounds very exciting, and I hope that it just keeps fueling your creative, fuel, for lack of a
Absolutely.
better word.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's very accurate.
Yeah.
Creative juices.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming into the podcast. I'm so happy that you're here with us and just sharing all of this. I feel like everybody always gains so much insight from learning different perspectives from different artists. And I love that we're able to also share your art with people who may not know you. So definitely, I'm super grateful that you gave me a bit of your time to for me to interview you. And
Of course.
just this was very fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. It's been an honor. Really fun.
Well, guys, that was the Lonely Artist podcast for you there. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time. But most definitely, I hope that you were able to get inspired and maybe even draw while you're listening to this. I know I love to draw when I listen to podcasts. And I just want to wish you all happy holidays. Have a lovely time with your families. And please do enjoy, but enjoy safely. All right, I'll see you guys for next year.